day. So the dynastic era had some real tyrants that ruled for periods of time, and it changed. But the point I'm making here is the original inhabitants of the land of Kim, pre-dynastic dynasty, pre-dynastic Egypt, were the Dogon tribe. All right, pretty interesting stuff. But we're going to get into this tonight. I see everybody jumping on the video. Make sure you please share this video. Please click the like button. Helps the algorithm get going so more people can see this video. Click that bell if you're on YouTube so you can get notifications. And if you aren't getting the notifications, which I know a lot of you aren't, you can text me at 954-245-0086. You can see the number at the bottom of the screen. As a matter of fact, if you text #Black Knight, you'll automatically be added to my YouTube or my anytime I go live list. But also you have a chance to win an autographed movie poster. The original first edition movie poster that I made before I even filmed the Black Knight satellite. So prior to actually filming the Black Knight, I made this poster. This poster was made 2.5 years ago. And there's a picture of me standing next to King Simon. He came to visit me at my new house at that time in Florida. And he took a picture standing right next to my movie poster long before, that was 2 years ago, long before the movie was even filmed, before I even started filming it. And the reason why I did that, manifestation. I understand the power of manifestation. I understand the power of creating your own reality. So I knew this was something I wanted to do at a high level, and I made the movie poster. This original poster, I'll be signing the back, autographing it, and shipping it out to somebody, some lucky person. No taxes, no postage, and all we ask is that you take a picture with it and let us put it up on Forbidden Giveaways on Instagram, the Forbidden Giveaways Instagram account, where we give away cars and money and computers and all kind of stuff. All right. So again, text #Black Knight. All right, you see at the bottom of the screen, #Black Knight with 2 Ks, BLACK, to 954-245-0086. And you're going to have a great time here. And let me switch this up here real quick. Let me see. Boom. And here. Okay, 1 second. Edit. That one won't work here. So let me put this one in. 245-0086. And we're going to get this party started. All right. 245-0086 is putting this in the chats for everybody so that everybody can get a chance, no matter where you are, to get the opportunity to take part in this. And let me just cut and paste this. Save it. So, okay. All right, cool. Now, I'm going to drop this in the chat. There you go. Boom. All right, guys. Now you got a chance. Text that in. Everybody should see there. And also in the comments, if you're on another account like Facebook, I think I'm on Twitter. Wherever you see me live at, you guys can do it down, okay? All right, so let's get into this, guys. Let's get into this. Let's get into the forbidden Black Jews of Ethiopia. All right. Now, these are actual Black rabbis. These are Black rabbis in Ethiopia. I'm so really sad about that global sickness that happened in 2020 because I was supposed to head down to Ethiopia because I was going to do a documentary or start filming for the documentary I was going to build on the Lalibela temples there, and also, of course, the Black Jews. Unfortunately, the sickness swept the land and delayed that. Finally, it's comeback time again. So I'm looking forward to maybe 2024. 2023 is fully booked. Half of 2024 is already booked for me. But I'm looking forward to 2024 to go there and document what I was going to do, which was to go face to face, go to the synagogue, temple where they worship, speak directly with the homegrown original Black Jews, as well as document the Lalibela temple and the technology used to build that temple and carve it out of solid mountain. And then also I was going to travel over to India to document the Kailash temple, which is built the same exact way, using the same exact technique. And of course, I've already been to Abu Simbel, which is also built the same way, using the same exact technique. All three temples are linked in that they have the same master architect and the same exact tooling technology and the same exact tool marks. So I'm looking forward to doing that, but that'll be 2024 before I can get there in person. All right. So anyway, here we go, guys. We're talking about the Black Jews of Ethiopia. Like I said, this is going to be a very educational piece, and I'm going to start first off here with my sources, because that's very, very important. All right. Very, very important to start with the sources. And the sources come in the beginning. Just like I do some of my big lectures and workshops, I bring the sources in the beginning. So cnewa.org, consciousitems.com, frontiersin.org, myjewishlearning.com, Britannica.com, good old encyclopedia there, Britannica, Safaria.org, jewishvoice.org, jewishvirtuallibrary.org, of course, Wikipedia for just some information on a cabinet member that we have to talk about at the end. BBC News, the Enuma Elish and the Seven Tablets of Creation from the Sumerians, the Epic of Atrahasis, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Gospel of the Holy 12, the Myth of Adapa, and the 42 Ideals of Mayat. Okay, so those are the sources. Now, let me pull back out of here for a minute. All right. Yeah, just checking on the chat, see how you guys are doing here. Looks like everyone is in there and everybody's vibing. All right, cool. That's what I like to see, guys. That's what I like to see. First, let's talk about where they're located, all right? In the mountains of Ethiopia is a group of Ethiopians that have celebrated their Jewish heritage for centuries. Actually, it's been about 15 to 1800 years, all right? 15 to 1800 years. Now, that's not when they started. That's just when they started in that area, because they migrated, which we'll talk about in a little bit, all right? All Jews have been migrating. They've been migrating literally nonstop since about maybe 2,000 years ago, all right, around the time of Moses. Actually, 4,000 years ago, 4,000 years, not 2,000, 4,000 years ago. And so Ethiopian Jews living in a remote mountainous region of northwestern Ethiopia, which is an area which until recently could be reached only on foot or on horseback. So this is a key clue to why hardly anybody knows about these people, okay? Until recently, you have to go on this like journey, like this real rural journey to get to these people. You have to go for like an Australian Aboriginal call it a walkabout to get, very difficult to get to them, all right? Black Jews who call themselves the Kaila, or the Beta Israel, the house of Israel is really what it means, okay? They observe the Sabbath as indicated in the Torah. They eat only kosher food. They pray in straw-roofed synagogues. And they use only unleavened bread during the 7 days of Passover. Yet they also offer animals in sacrifice and have priests and deacons appointed by the community, and their neighbors call them falashas, which means strangers, wanderers, or exiles. All right. So they follow, as you can see, the majority of the Jewry, the rules of being an Orthodox Jew. However, they don't have the Talmud. Now, that's really important because the Talmud came way later, which to me proves that the other Jews that are reading from the Talmud are most likely, the Talmud was something that was written and added much later. And then when the Ethiopian Jews migrated down to where they are in Ethiopia out of Egypt, they were cut off from getting access to that Talmud information and never had a chance to learn the Talmud. But everything else that they do is pretty much the same, to be quite honest with you, proving that they are actual authentic Jews, which has now been authenticated by Israelis. These are some pictures of some Ethiopian Jews right here. All right. You can see the Star of David behind them. Here's another Beta Israel Jewish family. It looks like they're on a bus, probably on their way to somewhere, but you can see that they're all together here, looking, pretty modern. This is a modern day thing. These people are well known. These Jews are well known, and they travel around. They just have regular lives, just like everyone else. Just except that they're from Ethiopia. So these are chief rabbis of both the Ashkenazi and the Sephardic Jews, recognize the indigenous Ethiopians as members of the Agnau ethnic group as authentic Jews. So they have been recognized as authentic Jews by chief rabbis of both the Ashkenazi and the Sephardic Jews. All right. Sephardic Jews primarily hail from Turkey and that region, Iraq. Ashkenazi are more European. And, the thing about this whole thing really is just based on my research, it looks like a lot of the information was taken directly out of Egypt, which we'll get into a little bit later, really soon, actually. But it just seems like a lot of the information was taken out of Egypt. The tribes formed and then moved through Egypt and then spreading from there. So, of course, the biblical narrative of Jews as slaves building pyramids just didn't happen, guys. I'm sorry, just didn't happen. When you really go to Egypt, like I've been many times, you find out that there were no Jews there working, doing hard labor as slaves and building these things, because the records have been left behind by the construction people who worked on these sites. And you find out that they had payment. They were paid a salary every single week. They had a form of health insurance in ancient times. And you can see the records of people claiming for like broken legs and broken arms and injuries and injured backs. All these records are available to the general public and are well documented, and they really do exist. There's another story that really tells the truth about how people came together, formed a monotheistic religion, and then fled from Egypt, which I'm going to get into tonight. All right. But these are the three races, as you can tell them apart by this. I saw somebody in the chat. How can you tell them apart? You have the Agnau ethnic group, which is the Ethiopian Jews. The Sephardic Jews are also out of Turkey, but also some in Spain and even into Asia as well. All right. And then you have the Ashkenazi Jews. Ethiopian Jews' origins can be traced to the Exodus from Egypt, a band of Hebrews headed south rather than across the Sinai Desert, ending up in Ethiopia, so in the land of Moses. Now, we're going to get into this Moses story a little bit, and here's where I'm going to give you some of my own conjecture, some of my own hypothesis as to what I believe happened with the Moses story, because the actual person, Moses, I believe is actually Pharaoh Akhenaten, a former Pharaoh Akhenaten, who was actually ousted out of Egypt and took followers with him. All right. Moses was quite possibly the outcasted Pharaoh Akhenaten. Numbers 12:1 in the King James Bible. Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. And so, basically, Moses, he left out of Egypt, and I'm going to tell you, I think, in my opinion, it was actually Pharaoh Akhenaten is actually Moses. I mean, we all know that the name Moses didn't really exist back then. That's a made-up name, obviously. There's no Paul, Peter, and all these kind of names. I mean, come on, wake up. Those names are all fabricated names. However, there are people associated to those names, but the actual names are something else. I mean, there's nobody in Middle East called Mary, okay? It's just not going to happen, all right? However, Akhenaten is an interesting character in ancient Egypt in that he actually decided to start following Amun-Ra, a.k.a. Marduk, who can be found in the Torah, the Jewish American Virtual Library, and everywhere else in the Bible. right? And so Marduk is Amun Ra, and Amun Ra is a jealous god, and there'll be no other gods but him. That made it into the actual Bible, that text that he said there. He was also known as Aten, the sun disk, because he, instead of walking amongst men on the ground, he liked to rule from the sky in his ship. And then Akhenaten called it the sun disk. Okay. And anyway, any rate, Akhenaten was now convinced that this was the one God that he was going to worship, and under the rule and under the guidance of this Anunnaki named Marduk, aka Amun Ra, he was going to usher in monotheism to the world through Pharaoh Akhenaten, because he wanted everybody to think that he was the one and only true God that existed, and to forget all of his relatives, because you had Yahweh, who was also known as Enlil. You had Ea Enki, who was another one of the gods. You had Anu, who was the head god. You had all these gods walking around on Earth in different places on the planet at any given time. And this guy, Marduk, who was actually related to them, became very jealous, according to the Sumerian tablets, and wanted to be the only one getting worshipped. He wanted to be the king of the planet so bad, he started a war to take over kingship before his anointed time, which he did. Okay, so this is a brutal guy. This guy's actually crazy, all right, in my personal opinion. And I'm getting this information directly from Sumerian tablets. Now, what's interesting here is when we go a little bit deeper into Pharaoh Akhenaten's family line, all right, you see the King Tut statue here, this black statue up in the upper left, this King Tut statue from the Cairo Museum. He's holding his staff. Okay, he was the son of Akhenaten, and his stepmother was Nefertiti, down here at the bottom, all right? And then his grandfather right here, Amenhotep III, all right? And then to the right of him is Queen Taye. That was his wife. So that was King Tut's grandmother, but also Akhenaten's mother. So Akhenaten's mother is beneath him, and beneath Akhenaten here is Amenhotep III. Okay, and then to over here is his wife Nefertiti, all right, and his son King Tut. Now, what's interesting, what started happening with Pharaoh Akhenaten is he literally started to do something crazy. All right, I'm going to zoom out of this for a second because I need to talk to you guys about this for a minute. He started to do something a little bit crazy. So Pharaoh Akhenaten, once he got these orders directly from Amun Ra, he then was told to go around and begin to deface all the other gods. He was then making rules that if anybody were to worship another god other than the sun disk, Amun Ra, Aten, that they would be murdered, killed. And so he started getting this huge following of people pretty quickly that were underneath his wings. In other words, he was like the priest, and they were his, they were his congregation. And he was preaching this monotheistic concept where he was ushering in a one God religion to the area. And he was having people go around and chip away at the faces and the bodies and the noses and everything else of all the statues around Egypt that represent any other god. That's where it really came from. So if you're wondering why the noses and the heads and the ears are chipped off all the time, it's not because white people went to Egypt and did this, because they weren't even around in ancient times. These things can be dated back to the time when these things were defaced. They were defaced. The majority of them were defaced long before the Greeks and the Romans ever even showed up. These are just facts, guys. I'm here to give you real facts. I'm not here to play with your heartstrings. I'm not here to pimp your brain and make you feel good inside. I'm here to give you the information, whether you like it or not. I'm giving one reason is, the first reason is because the ears and the noses are very, very difficult to maintain over thousands of years or hundreds of years even, because those are the most brittle parts of the statue, and they usually fall away or degrade first. Okay, especially when they've been buried and tossed over and everything else. that these things be chipped away, broken, and pretty much erased. The people who are in this chat right now who went with me just a few weeks ago, they saw it with their own eyes. We know this stuff was done in ancient times, long before anybody white even arrived. So the people around him were like, this guy's erasing our history. Like, we have to stop him at any cost. Finally, he was ousted. Okay, he was ousted. And so, but what did he do? He didn't just leave. He left with his band of new followers. And what were they studying from? They were creating what is now known as the Old Testament, but all that information wasn't written yet. It came from Sumerian tablets. The bulk of the Old Testament is coming from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Enuma Elish and the Seven Tablets of Creation, the Epic of Atrahasis. Okay, a lot of that is the, and of course, several cylinder scrolls from the Sumerians. A lot of that is the majority of the Old Testament. The Epic of Gilgamesh, that's the true story of Noah and Noah's Ark. A lot of it, and the myth of Adapa. All this is coming from Sumerian tablets and the Egyptian Book of the Dead. All right. They were taking that information back then at that time, because remember, there was nothing yet. And they're turning it into written text under one canonized type text to study and research. And then they fled out of Egypt and left. All right. Left out of Egypt. And then they spread out all over the place. This is Queen Taye. This is Pharaoh Akhenaten's mother. Okay, this is his mother. This is a re-rendering of what she looked like. People who went with me saw the actual mummy at the actual museum. We went to the Museum of Civilization. You can see this is a black and white image here at the bottom. You can see that she was a black woman with woolly hair, just like you see here, like regular tight curls like all black people have. You can see this head bust above in the upper right corner. That's at the Egyptian Museum, depicting her true likeness at the time that it was taken. You can see that she's older. Her face is drawn down a little bit. Her mouth is drawn down. She was obviously an older woman at the time, a grandmother. Most likely, well, she never got to be really a grandmother, but older woman at the time. You know, King Tut was, well, we don't know. Maybe Pharaoh Akhenaten's daughters may have had some children. She may not have never seen them, but King Tut was killed, and so was his girlfriend. However, you can see here she definitely was a black woman. All right, she was a queen of Egypt in the 18th dynasty, wife of the pharaoh Amenhotep III, mother of Akhenaten, grandmother of both Tutankhamun and Ashkenam Senamun. I'm sorry, Ankh Senamun. My bad. And she exerted enormous influence at the courts of both her husband and son, and is known to have communicated directly with the rulers of foreign nations. She was like an emissary, ambassador. The Amarna letters also show that she was highly regarded by these rulers. So these are the Amarna letters, which are available, public record. This is proof and more evidence that these people existed, okay? And especially during the reign of her son. Although she believed in the traditional polytheistic religion of Egypt. See, her son wanted to bring in monotheism. She believed in the multiple gods. He believed in the single God. She supported Akhenaten's monotheistic reforms, most likely because she recognized them as important political stratagems to increase the power of the throne at the expense of the priesthood of Amun. So basically, like I said, guys, this is what was going on back then. This was a battle between religions. Is there going to be multiple gods like the Greeks believed in? The Greeks took that from Egypt and created the pantheon. The original pantheon came even before Egypt or Kem. It came out of Iraq, out of Mesopotamia, the Sumerian pantheon. Those people who were in the Sumerian pantheon, their names got changed twice, once into Kemetic and Egyptian names, and then the second time it was into Greek. Actually, 3 times. The third was into Roman. All right. Now, what was so special about it? What does this Akhenaten have to do? Why am I rambling so much when I'm supposed to be talking about black Jews? Well, you see me here inside the king's chamber, inside of the Great Pyramid. I'm in the king's chamber. In the king's chamber, you see this stone box in front of me. This granite box is not a sarcophagus. This granite box is part of the technology of the inner workings of the Great Pyramid. And this granite box has a giant chunk missing out of this corner facing the